Hello and welcome. Managing a business enterprise sometimes can have some similarities with managing a team on a cricket ground, but sometimes not. Let's find out if there are any similarities indeed. I'm speaking to Anil Kumble, coach of the Indian cricket team. Anil, thank you very much for speaking with us. So if I were to ask you, between a coach and a captain, are there any similarities?
I think the captain's the boss at all times. The coach is just an enabler, so that doesn't change.
Right. And how do you try and bridge the gap if there is one? If you're trying to get people to do things your way and...
No, there's nothing like that. I mean, at the end of it, you have a conversation and then let the captain decide. You give in your inputs, but at the end of the day, the captain takes the call. He's the boss.
Right. Let me ask you about a business question. You know, many business enterprises, we are in a technology conference, are facing challenges which are somewhat unlike what they faced before. Would you draw any parallels with cricket or the cricketing ground from your own past?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you look at the landscape of cricket itself, it's changed from 20 years ago when I first, 25 years ago when I made my debut. It was all about Test cricket, and one-day cricket was, yes, very important. But Test cricket was really important. There was no other format other than Test cricket and the one-day cricket. And the first one-day that I played for India in England, we played 55 overs. So it was not even a 50-over game. So from there to what it is now, the landscape's changed, and you have a T20 format. So yeah, it's very similar where people are finding it difficult. There have been layoffs, and even in cricket, you have probably more clarity and distinct separation between now a Test player and then a T20 player. So yeah, there are challenges that you meet,
right?
And
that's how I think the one day example is a good one, right? So how do you transition? And so is it more of a physical challenge or a mental challenge or both?
No, I think it's also skill. It's not just about physical and mental challenge. Test cricket is all about not just skill but also mental, whereas in the shorter format it's all about skill and being fearless and then trying to do what you can within the limited period of time that you have. So it's a matter of that, and the adjustment that you need to make from a mental adjustment, that's more mental rather than skill. So for me personally, the first time that I ever played T20 was in England, and after that was the IPL. I had retired from playing cricket for India. So for me, the shift from bowling only 4 overs, wherein it probably took me 4 overs to warm up, and here you were trying to change mentally to think that you need to bowl 4 overs in 4 different spells. That was the change that you need to make, and that took a little bit of time. Some people make the change, some people don't. So I was lucky enough to make that change and try and see how I can
And the reason
bowl.
you could make that change is because you felt competitive and pressured?
No, at the end of the day you need to accept change and then try and do what is relevant, rather than force and say, look, this is how I am, I'm not going to change. And that's exactly what is happening in everywhere. I mean, technology coming in, you have to accept that and then try and be one up and try and adjust and then enable yourself to use that to your advantage.
Right. So how do you motivate yourself? So the first part is accepting change, and the second part is going out and competing because someone is really shot ahead of you. So how do you motivate yourself to do that?
No, you need to. I mean, it's again, trying to be innovative within your limits, whatever you can. You can't just be somebody else just because that's what is required. So today we are talking about the game where you need different skills, and maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, you could probably be needing players who are ambidextrous. Somebody who can bat. Already right-handed batsmen are playing the reverse sweep so comfortably now, and the left-handed batsman as well playing the right-handed sweep shot as a reverse sweep. So you may need a bowler who will probably be ambidextrous as well. So that's the kind of probably change that you would want to see 5 or 10 years down the line, or even earlier. So those are the changes that you will have to adapt, and that's something that is a constant thing that keeps happening.
So there's one situation where you're actually seeing something happen or change, and then you are the one who's adapting. How do you lead that process if you want to, or can you?
No, you can. I mean, at the end of it, whether that change is relevant, sometimes those changes you just need to ignore some of it. Just because it's working for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean that it works for you. So you need to figure out what works for you. And in that situation, if what works for you is actually doing the job, then you don't need to be something different.
Right.
And,
but
and
but
then
could you also be the change creator, the
you can
the
be
trendsetter?
Yeah, you can be trendsetter.
What does it take?
But I think it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of data to back that yes, this is a change that I'm going to see, and then acceptance that, and the backing that okay, you can go ahead and make that change.
But have you done that in your own career, where you've
No, in
done
my
something
career.
which was perhaps not?
No, in my career, I used up the skills that I used to have with bowling with a tennis ball, bringing that into cricket, into my own skills. So that certainly helped. Developing a googly, which was very different to how a normal leg spinner would bowl. So that's something that certainly helped me get a lot more wickets.
So, one of the questions that you must have been asked many times, I mean, how do you, in a screaming stadium, when you've got a deadline, maybe you want to take your 10th wicket or you're trying to defend a wicket, how do you maintain calm, which is again comparable to many other situations where people are trying to stay calm against very pressing conditions?
No, you can't replicate that at practice, but what you can certainly replicate at practice is the way you play in a match. The practice that you do day in, day out, is extremely critical as to how you're going to practice. It just can't be, going through the motions. You have to put yourself under a competitive environment in your own mind, and then
So you have to imagine a screaming stadium.
Not necessarily a screaming stadium, but then you need to imagine those situations, and you need to put yourself in those conditions and try and come up trumps in a practice situation. And that is important. And once you're repeating that, then it doesn't really matter where you're trying to achieve that, whether it's a screaming stadium, whether it's the last ball, whether it's the first ball, or whether it's a stadium without anyone, and you're still competing with an opposition batsman. So it's all about practicing what you go out there and play, and if you've done that day in, day out, then it becomes a lot easier.
Right. So last question: if Indian cricket team looking ahead, I mean, obviously we've had a good run in the recent past. What do we need to do to make sure that we stay focused on the path?
No, I think continue what the benchmarks that we have set. I mean, I've kept repeating that we need to look at what we can do and not worry about the opposition. And if we can continue to do what we can, and we keep ticking those boxes, then I think the results will come.
No, let me phrase that differently then. What are the 3 things that we've done right as a process, perhaps? It's not just, let's say, a few talented sportsmen playing well. Did we get something right on a broader?
I think the contribution from not just the top order, but the middle order and the lower order as well. So that's something that you've always needed in a champion team. The lower order contribution has been something brilliant if you look at, and then the skills of the bowlers. We've been able to take 20 wickets in every test match, and that's something that no matter who's playing, it's always been everyone putting their hand up, whether it's the fast bowlers contributing in Indian conditions or the spinners contributing in foreign conditions. I think that's been.
So
would
that be the formula for a winning team? I mean,
I think everyone has to contribute. It just can't be the brilliance of one or two individuals. I mean, we have seen some brilliance over the last 1 year, but those brilliances are needed. But at the same time, it's also important that every member of the team contributes.
And that applies to all teams across the board. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.